Oh, okay. Hello. Hello. Welcome to Many World Radio on a balmy Monday. I'm with Fran and Maru, who are going to read some text.
Recently, I read about Oscar Masotta in Artificial Hells by Claire Bishop. And I also read about him on Dora Garcia's website because she did a whole project about him called Segunda Vez. He visited New York from Argentina in 1966. And while he was there, he went to Lamont Young's Happening. He says in I Committed a Happening that at the time I was not very familiar with the American scene, and so I paid attention to the opinions of everyone else. Young was a disciple of Cage, then close to the cool painters, into the drug scene. The Happening, or musical work, was held at the house of Larry Poons, an excellent painter promoted by Castelli. I don't remember the exact address. It was downtown on the west side in a loft, one of these enormous shed flats that you can find in New York for $200 a month, and which, after painting them totally white, are lived in by some painters and simply used as a studio by others. And it was on the third floor, and one had to go up by broad stairways that led to shed apartments like the final one, but totally empty. Only in certain corners, set discreetly on certain walls, one could distinguish canvases. These must have been pictures by Larry Poons. After climbing the last staircase, one was assaulted by and enveloped in a continuous, deafening noise, composed of a colourful mix of electronic sounds, to which were added indecipherable but equally constant noises. Something, I don't know what, something oriental was burning somewhere, and a ceremonious ritual perfume filled the atmosphere of the space. The lights were turned out. Only the front wall was illuminated by a blue or reddish light, and I don't remember if the lights changed. Perhaps they did, switching from red to green to violet. Beneath the light, and almost against the wall, facing the room and facing the audience, which was seated and arranged throughout the space, there were 5 people also sitting on the ground. One of them a woman in yoga positions, dressed in what was certainly oriental clothing, and each of them holding a microphone. One of them played a violin, while, seen from my position, not much more than 5 yards distant, the 4 others remained as though paralyzed, with the microphones almost glued to their open mouths. The very high-pitched and totally homogeneous sound had at first kept me from seeing the cause of these open mouths, which was that the 4, stopping only to breathe, were adding a continuous guttural sound to the sum of the electronic sounds. In all this, there was something that escaped me, that wasn't to my taste. I don't like Zen, or rather, even while it gives rise in me to a certain intellectual curiosity, since in it there are certainly valuable intuitions, it disgusts me as a social phenomenon in the West, and even more as a manifestation within a society so dramatically capitalist as the American one. But I knew neither the practice of Zen nor the complete theory, and additionally, in this sum of deafening sounds, in this exasperating electronic endlessness, in this mix of high-pitched noise and sounds that penetrated one's bones and pummeled one's temples, there was probably something that had very little to do with Zen. My eyes opened wider and wider, and all they found in front of them, enveloped in the quietude of their bodies and in the light, seated were the 5 performers. How long would this last? I was not resolved to pursue the experience to the end. I didn't believe in it. After no more than 20 minutes, I left.
feedback loop that's posed onto itself, and moving the attention as a group being. We had a conversation, one-on-one, words dropped, projected, and followed up. Some roots were weaved, contents intertwined, gesture and indigestion, spinning out and around. Is it alright if I was talking too fast? Yeah, nice to fasten the pace of thought that what seems interrupted is just performed on the fifth dimension of a dream thought. High-res disappears into a pixelated matrix, into a full box, into a container that floats around the horizon. I dreamt the plot of what was happening, having some trouble to wake up on the shortest day. And after turning around, I saw a flat-looking house, since we are in the fifth dimension. I found a door that I entered. There is a small gathering.
In I Committed a Happening, Oscar Masotta says that 2 or 3 days after attending Lamont Young's happening, I began changing my opinion, and when I returned to Buenos Aires in April of '66, I had already resolved to do a happening myself. I had one in mind, and its title, To Induce the Spirit of Image, was an express commentary on what I had learned from Lamont Young. On disordered sheets of paper, and on the edges of my habitual work, I noted both the general framework of his actions and their details. From Lamont Young, I retained, unaltered, the idea of putting on a continuous sound, the product of a sum of electronic sounds, and exceedingly high volume for 2 hours. As to the arrangement of the performers and the audience, it would be the same. The performers in front of the room, lighted, and the audience facing the performers in the shadows, occupying all the rest of the space. Thus, the audience would be obliged to see and indeed to look at the performers bathed in light for the duration and under the high volume of the electric sound. I, however, would not have 5 performers, but 30 or 40, and they would not be sitting in a yoga position, but seated motionless in a motley array on a platform. I then thought that I would recruit them among the downtrodden proletariat. In April, I gathered a group of people, plastic artists for the most part, to plan a festival of happenings. Oscar Palacio, Leopoldo Mahler, David Lamelas, Roberto Jacobi, Eduardo Costa, Mario Gandelsonas. I invited them to make a successive set of happenings in a relatively limited space of time. They accepted, and then we agreed that various art galleries, Bonino, Lirelay, Guernica, etc., would each have to take the responsibility of presenting an artist. The group of happenings would, in its turn, be presented and presided over by the Museo de Arte Moderno of the city of Buenos Aires. We spoke with Hugo Parpagnoli, the director of the museum, and with the gallerists, and everyone agreed. By acting in this way, by planning out happenings within an official framework, the presence of the museum, I intended to work according to what may be called pedagogical ends. I was attracted by the idea of definitively introducing a new aesthetic genre among us. For this, our happenings had to fulfill only one condition. They must not be very French, that is, not very sexual. I was thinking of accomplishing purely aesthetic ends, and imagined myself a bit like the director of the Museum of Stockholm, who had opened himself up from within an official institution to all manner of avant-garde manifestations. But Buenos Aires is not a Swedish city. At the moment during which we planned the 2-week festival, there came the coup d'etat that brought Juan Carlos Onganía to power, and there was an outburst of puritanism and police persecution. Scared, we abandoned the project. What is more, it was a bit embarrassing, amid the gravity of the political situation, to be creating happenings. In this respect, embroiled in a sentiment of mute rage, I now think exactly the contrary.
lot of sun. They observe structural elements and movements of this assembly. Open and closed doors create the gradation of sacredness. The inner space is hidden, but one can glimpse from time to time at the existence of several different rooms behind the last door. People start circling and crawling around and kissing every single picture, bowing constantly and almost synchronically. 160 BPM on one Sunday afternoon. As they get the chance to stand in rows, they also start to move in a circle around the smallest axis imaginable. Usually they move their legs, but some of them move other parts of the body. While moving their legs, they usually do steps. When moving their heads and arms, they choose shaking or spiral movements. The movements sometimes synchronize, and it usually means that they are moved together. A main mother standing in front of them, protecting them with her body from the side of a goddess, which is represented by numerous eyes of saints coming from the icons. Icons are placed on a desktop. Usually saints have 2 eyes, but not all of them have eyes, and some of them have more eyes than anything else. They are frozen in the front of opportunities they could have, or one moves in a 160 BPM wave. There are many roads to take. Their bodies are exhausted. They wish they were capable of listening more carefully and just absorb the information without reacting to it, collecting, assembling, and disassembling. Like breathing.
Just your mouth, just your love, just your anointing oils, just your name, just your chambers, just your love, and my mother's sons, and my own vineyard, and my soul, just your flock, just your companions, just your kids, just your cheeks, just your neck, just your couch, and my perfume, and my beloved, and my breasts, and my beloved, and my love, just your eyes, and my beloved. And my beloved, just your shadow, just your fruit, just your banner over me, just your left hand, just your right hand, and my beloved, and my beloved. And my beloved, and my love, and my fair one, and my love, and my fair one, and my dove, just your face, just your voice, just your voice, just your face, my bed, and my soul, and my soul, and my soul, and my soul, and my mother's house, just your sword, just your mother, just your wedding, just your heart, and my love, just your eyes, just your veil, just your hair, just your teeth, just your lips, just your mouth, just your cheeks, just your veil, just your neck, just your two breasts, and my love, and my bride, and my heart, and my sister, and my bride, and my heart, just your eyes, just your necklace, just your love, and my sister, and my bride, just your love.
In How Masotta Was Repeated, Dora Garcia said that she had decided from early on that an important part of the research work would go to filming 3 happenings Masotta had organised in October 1966. At that time, we had no documentation of them, no clear photographs, no films. There was only Masotta's after the fact, but very thorough and detailed descriptions of the happenings, or anti-happenings, all of which took place in October 1966. He describes and discusses the helicopter to induce the spirit of the image and the ghost message in After Pop We Dematerialize and in I Committed a Happening, both published in 1967. Those descriptions would allow us to script the happenings and make them happen again. The idea was to get as close as possible to the original way of preparing, coordinating, and performing. And that means that we would make a documentary of the repetition of those happenings without rehearsing them, without the possibility of playing for the camera, without the possibility of redoing anything that might not seem right. And that is what we did. In September 2015, we repeated the helicopter as one of the opening events for Tabacalera, a new art centre in San Sebastián, Spain. There was a real audience of about 80 to 100 people, an actress, a helicopter pilot, stewards and stewardesses to lead the audience, a drum player, a theatre, an open landscape. It happened. Later on, when Chloe Masotta, Oscar Masotta's daughter, found some original pictures of the original happenings in Buenos Aires, it was uncanny to see how closely they resembled the images taken in San Sebastián almost 50 years later. In June 2016, and with the support, advice and help of the Universidad Torquato de Tella, we repeated one of Masotta's most controversial happenings to induce the spirit of the image. It consisted of confronting a contemporary art audience with a group of 20 old proletarians who were played by actors and who stood under a violent white light and the shrill sound of an electronic soundtrack, facing the audience for an hour. It happened, even if the electronic soundtrack was rather pleasant, composed by the occasion by artist Jan Mek, who was actually reinvented, taking into account the time of the original electronic composition, because we have no notion of how the original one sounded. And even if the white light, due to technical limitations at Torquato di Tella, was far from violent, still it happened. And to our surprise, it produced a pretty negative response from the audience. Some thought it was too violent, others thought that it was not violent enough, and some thought we were profiteers who came from the metropole to suck dry Masotta's memory like vampires. Even though for decades no one had done much about Masotta, and especially about his artistic work. Ultimately, though, the big question was, why repeat Masotta?
The House of Glass. Topography defined. How body bends. I accelerate. A treasure brought here by an accident is stolen before I could have had a better look at it. A storm is coming. Through a foggy wheel I see. The vision is getting cleared by thousands cleaners. It's summer. On that island, the cleaners cleaned the fortune crystal ball. I steal the crystal ball and return to where I've started, but now alone. The ball is shattered. It slips from my hands and bits and pieces turn darker than my thoughts. I sink and fall. I crystallize myself to repair what hasn't had to be broken. The ship sails away. I rub my robe. It grows. I make it grow. It grounds me. The inside turn into an outside. I follow it, but cannot catch. I run down the road, but it isn't straight. Old desire. A wicket opens. I retrace my steps. I lure it. I scream. The shadow is reflection. I trap it.
how Mesota was repeated, Dora Garcia talks about how, in his 1914 text, Remembering, Repeating and Working Through, Freud argues that repeating happens instead of remembering. The purpose of the repetition is to make the traumatic event that we refuse to remember happen again and again, so that it exists in a protracted present. Repeating is a form of making present, of making something happen again. So repetition is a form of catharsis. This is well known, of course, and also of atonement, or of repair. How many thousands of years are behind this idea? A wrong happened and must be set straight. We replay it on our mind, a moviola with which to repair the wrong. Here we have haunted houses, ghosts, penitents, punishments, penalties, penances. Poetic justice too. The justice that did not happen in history can at last happen now in fiction. Fiction can happen as a place of atonement for reality. Yes, fiction as a sort of heaven for the hell of reality. At the heart of the famous esprit d'escalier, this French expression, commonly used in English as well, to describe the experience of thinking of a good or witty comeback, only when it's too late, pinpoints the desperate desire to replay the situation so as to make it possible for us to deliver the witty, crushing comeback we have just thought of. And of course, to punch back the one who deserved to be punched, to take back the awful remark that broke a relationship, to say a proper farewell to someone we now know we will never meet again. Repetition, playback, repair wrongs, pay debts, give what's due. This is all true, but the concept of psychoanalysis we're going through refers rather to a form of the return of the repressed. Yes, this wonderful concept. The more a memory is repressed, making its recall impossible, the more aggressively it finds its way out by means of the compulsive repetition of an action. In this case as well, repeating is a form of making present, of making something happen again. The greater the resistance to remember, the more violent the compulsion to act out, so that repetition replaces memory. Segunda vez, second time around, déjà vu. In monotheistic religions, the second coming is the sign for the end of times. The prophecy of the second coming is as well a cancellation of chronology. Each moment is the moment of the Messiah's arrival. It has happened already. It has been prophesied. It is caught in an eternal loop of happening again. But since, according to what we said when discussing psychoanalysis, the ritual acting out of the myth, or the repetitive acting out of the forgotten memory, implies a reactualization of that primordial traumatic event, then it follows that the actor, the one who acts, is magically projected. He or she becomes contemporary with the myth or the forgotten memory. It is not a return to the past, but rather a projection into a moment of a strange, instantaneous nature, patched between movement and standstill, and that, following logic, does not exist in any given time. A suspension of time, that is how Mesota was repeated. This repetition, as we shall see in a future publication, comes from a desire to restore a memory that has been a little forgotten. Southern conceptualisms in exile on the eve of a political catastrophe. Argentina, 1976 to 1982.
House of water, swimming pool. Repeat all the rrrs. Your being. Well, you have always been a being of an accelerating tempo. Time, rare, near, zzz. But what if all that water became frozen? What if all that water would slip back into the ocean, contaminated with lightweight thoughts and trying to form rows and circles? Would it get encrypted within a bigger structure? Or would it fall apart into interrupted particles? House of air, elevated room. Nothing too complex. Remember when one and another one suddenly made sense when you put them together? An oyster, a lion, and Adelomantis diabolical, also known as mantis, got together to discuss the next steps. We're moving and losing the sense of perspective at 160 ppm. Step by step. Joy or oblivion? A little bit of both. Quick jumping out of the skin, permitted preconception. Now shining in the rawness of two sisters. Now and forever. Wait. And don't forget the hatch, the boxes, the Adelomantis diabolical, weaved into your ears. Consider the spell. What does an R do in the error? It growls at the right answer, but it knows that it has tried. You need to give form to your grief. The work of balancing the fall and falling apart distinguishes between the dedication and the discipline. Elevation.
Rows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions that I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I looked at love that way once upon a time, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know, no, don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know what love's about at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say to someone I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way. Sometimes I still do. Now friends are acting strange. They shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Yes, I have. Something's lost, but something's gained in living every day.